All right, lock in because today I'm going to be giving my thoughts and recap on Australian Survivor Brains vs. Brawn II Week 6. Also, I'm recording this on the day that I'm going to be posting it today, so I'm going to have to go light with the pictures and visuals this time. This is going to be more of an audio experience, but post-season, when I have more time to make these videos, I can promise better quality for sure. I already know what players I'm planning on making story videos for, so I'm excited. But yeah, enough wasting time. It's time to get in here. In episode 16, this first little opening section is about two things, which are sort of going to be these week-long storylines. Karen wants to use Logan in her plan to weaken AJ by getting out either Kate or Morgan, preferably Kate, and this sounds good to Miles. And AJ and Kaylin want to get rid of Karen because he thinks it'll open up the game so much and make it so that no one has anyone else to run to except for him. I like both of these plans, like they're both logical plans. All I would say is that maybe the Kate and Morgan plan should have been started sooner because they're so locked in with AJ, but also at the same time, that might not be so obvious on the island, despite it being obvious in the edit. But yeah, I like this self-interested gameplay, especially from Miles. They're all somewhat in a graduates alliance, but I like how they're not just like sitting by and letting each other gain power. Since Karen saved Logan, hypothetically, that's her number along with Zara, so that could be a nice voting block, and AJ, Kate, and Morgan are a voting block. And with the numbers being so thin right now at 10, 3 is powerful and will get even more powerful as the week goes on, so I like this. Next, there was an auction, non-auction, which was basically just a game, like they flip a coin or whatever. Two-Face, flip of a coin DLC, Batman Arkham Knight. Yeah, they flip a coin to uncover one of two items. If they like it, they can keep it, but if they don't like it, they get to pick the other item. It was whatever, like the rewards were mid, but there were some funny moments, like when Paulie traded in his phone call home for something to eat just to get a pickle, which technically is something to eat. Like he got what he wanted, but he was expecting more, and it's just funny because he looked so heartless for trading in a phone call home just to get a pickle, but I wouldn't say that he was heartless. It's the jury phase of the game, like there's just a few more weeks left. He's going to get to see them, but at that moment, he's got to get something to eat, so I understand it. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out the best for him. Then another funny moment was when Kate got this scroll that let her steal someone's item and she took Kristen's lasagna and beer. It's just funny because Kate's my favorite and I know a Kristen fan, which I've been becoming a Kristen fan myself over these past few weeks. But yeah, because these were our favorite contestants and we watched these episodes together, it was a funny interaction. Speaking of that, the guy is giving me a lot of shout outs on his channel, so it's time to reciprocate. It's time for a plug. Follow Ori Streams. I met him on YouTube, but right now he's mostly active on Kick when a Big Brother season isn't going on. That's where we watch the episodes. For the most part, every Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday at around like 6:40 or like 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, he streams. And like we play some Marvel Rivals for about an hour and then get into the episode at around 8 o'clock. I stay up till 4 o'clock a.m. to watch these episodes, so I already know what's going to happen, but it is a good hangout session. Like watch the episode with some friends, and it's kind of what I was talking about in my second recap video. Like this is another person that likes Australian Survivor more than like, you know, other versions. So that aligns with my mindset. I want Australian Survivor to dominate. Like I want it to rise to the top. So I have to try my hardest to push those channels to the forefront that are going to cover Australian Survivor mainly. So that's all. Follow Ori Streams, YouTube, and Kick. Getting back to the episode, the auction, game, whatever, it was mid, but like I was never really a big auction guy in the first place, so I didn't really care that it was sort of a bust. Back at camp, it was more of the same things that I talked about, just solidifying the Karen plan, solidifying AJ's bond with Kate and Morgan by telling them that Karen wanted Kate out, and Miles getting to chime in on how the Karen plan doesn't benefit him because he wants to go deep in the game with her because of her lack of endurance ability in challenges. Crazy how AJ and Miles were working together last week, making big moves and such, and now they're on completely different sides of how they want this to play out. But like I said, I think everyone here has solid plans. The one thing that Karin's plan didn't account for was a Kate immunity win. Let's go. Big chaos Kate, man. They had to balance a ball on a beam using one foot, and this challenge was just way too easy for Kate, so she asked to make it harder. So like they had to put their hands behind their head. This kind of reminded me of Liz from Heroes vs. Villains, where she asked to make the final challenge harder and still won. Like, what a beast, what a savage. Because of this increased difficulty, Logan couldn't get this spider off her shoe, and her messing around with it caused her to lose the challenge. Now my question is, JLP kind of framed this as a question, like if they wanted to make the challenge harder, they could, and Logan agreed. So maybe she didn't have to, unless it was already like a planned part of the challenge. But yeah, that got me wondering, like, what if Logan didn't want to make the challenge harder? Like, are they just gonna say no? Anyways, Kate wins when she was potentially on the chopping block, potentially going to get some votes. So she's clutch, like Michael Jordan. She had that killer instinct and some of that Kobe Mamba mentality because they went for over an hour. Like, that's so wild. She even had a victory strut. Like, look at Chaos Kate, man. So inspirational. I liked her from day one, but since she went like 9 episodes with no content, I was concerned that she wasn't really going to be a character on this season, and like they were ruining her returning chances because a lot of the pre-mergers had packed edits relative to their time on the show, while she got nothing really. But now Kate has enough fun moments for like a 4-minute highlight reel and potentially more if she wins more challenges. No one can really stop her in these types of challenges. But yeah, this win threw a wrench into Karin's plan, which was going to be a Kate and Morgan vote split, so it turned into this Morgan and Polly split. There was actually a lot of confusion going around when most of it all sort of amounted to the same thing. There was that plan, then there was Miles's plan to vote out Logan because she wasn't in the graduates, and Karin was building a voting block, her, Zara, and Logan, and like she's solid at challenges. And all of this led to Karin being upset with guys like AJ and Miles because they just agreed on the Morgan plan and now the vote is Logan. This is one of the times where I agree with Karin. Like, they literally sat there and made a plan just to change it when they're supposed to be in an alliance. It's a loose alliance because guys like AJ and Kaylin sort of have a feeling that Karin saved Logan, but they say it's an alliance and they went behind Karin's back to get the Logan plan off the ground. They are untrustworthy allies, but that's why Karin has to pivot here. Like, that's why she has to flip on them and get AJ and Miles out and actually talk to Kate and Morgan, like make something happen. I agree with how Karin feels, so at this point, like, it's time for new allies. Unfortunately, none of this really mattered all that much because it was a non-elimination round. It was this bounty versus Baron twist where because Kate won immunity, she got to pick someone, Morgan, to go to this bounty tribe with her, where like it's nicer over there. They get a breakfast and an advantage in the next immunity challenge, while the Baron tribe gets nothing and has to start over. So it's basically Survivor Fiji, haves versus have-nots, or it's like Dire Fest and Big Brochella from the Big Brother season that shouldn't be named. She'll pick one person, then they'll go to a vote. The 2 people with the highest votes go to Baron. Then after that, they're going to draw rocks for the remaining spots. Also, to add to the confusion, they didn't find the time to clearly explain that these 2 tribes wouldn't go to tribal council separately. It was just going to be a situation where everyone goes, but half the tribe will be immune. WTF. This all makes sense now, but there were so many moving parts and I just didn't understand any of this on my first time watching. I don't like it, and I'll explain more after the results of the twist, but I know Kate seemed excited, probably because of the breakfast, but she got robbed here. She won immunity, now she has to win it again. It was so funny how she was gobsmacked all while JLP was explaining the twist, like same here. But yeah, despite Morgan saying Kate doesn't have to pick her and Kate having the potential to pick someone unexpected in AJ, thought that could be a possibility. But yeah, she picked Morgan because she's an Olympian, which was funny, but also I've got to say that aspect hasn't really come into play in these individual challenges in terms of wins. It kind of reminds me of Big Brother 26 where like there was this guy named Kim, D1 athlete, but he had an abysmal comp record. Like the D1 stuff never really came into play because the challenges weren't in his favor. But here, this challenge that Kate won, I thought that could be a Morgan challenge, but I guess not. Then after this, there was like this scramble where everyone had their agendas. Karin wanted AJ split up from Kate and Morgan, and they didn't want Polly, Kate, and Morgan on the same team. Like they wanted options. So there's an easy vote no matter what the outcome of the challenge was. Also, some wanted to stay strong with the Logan vote, which is what originally was going to happen. All of this led to Polly and Logan getting voted to the Baron tribe, and with the ruck draw, the tribes were Bounty, Kate, Morgan, AJ, Karin, and Zara, Baron, Polly, Logan, Miles, Kristen, and Kaylin. There was a tie vote between Logan and AJ for Baron, which caused a revote, but Logan just never had Kate and Morgan. Like those are firmly AJ numbers, which was a big mistake by everyone to let AJ get that close to them, especially since Logan was with Kate and Morgan in that like Coven Girls Gone Wild thing for the Jesse vote. Just mismanaging relationships, I've got to say, prioritizing the wrong relationships. Kate and Morgan probably don't have the highest win equity, but they are influential because if you get them, then you have 3 votes, and then maybe you have a friend that's 4 votes in a tribe of 10 right now. Like there's a lot of power in saying that you have 4 votes, you just need like 1 or 2 more votes. It's just mind-boggling how no one but AJ seems to be trying to take advantage of that. But yeah, that's how the episode ends. Not to say that this stuff won't come back around, but because it didn't lead to an immediate vote out, a lot of this stuff just felt like filler. The twist can still be successful, but this episode probably won't rate high when I eventually rate all of the episodes. Next, getting over to episode 17, it takes a bit to get into the strategy of this episode because the first few minutes of this episode is like just comparing and contrasting how good Bounty was and how bad Baron was. They even had this gray filter, like color grade over Baron to make it look more depressing. It was so funny, especially the Polly of it all, because he just couldn't catch a break. He's like the Simon Me of this season, like Milo Murphy's Law. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. But yeah, for the strategy, I don't have anything to comment on or add. I've just got to say, it was so funny how Miles thought that he was the king of the rats or whatever. Then the walls just started closing in on him fast at sonic speeds. Both tribes wanted him out. This like Polly, Logan, Kaylin, and Kristen group, which is everyone on the Baron tribe except for Miles, they sort of talked about how, not their words, but they're like these misfit toys and like they've been at the bottom or like just numbers in someone else's plan. So it's time to make a move, get Miles out if they lose, which is funny that they weren't even thinking about if they won because the twist put them at such a disadvantage. Then on Bounty, it was so funny how they edited Kate and Morgan and Zara and Karin talking about how they both wanted Miles out and the other pair just doesn't want to work with them. Like just have the conversation, which eventually happened, but that was so funny. Like the editing choices that were made in this episode was so funny. Then there's something that I think was a misplay. Kate told AJ about the Miles plan because she wanted his trust, which AJ actually agreed with, like getting out Miles because he was ruining his game. I mean, just look at the Kristen stuff from last week where she got mad at AJ after the idol shenanigans, even though Miles took her idol. So AJ said that like he sort of wanted Miles out, but actually he was trying to play this hedge game of not wanting Miles out, but wanting to keep him in the game as his partner, but create some distance from him to show people that like he's willing to work with them. I like Kate a lot as a social player, but strategically, I'm not sure. Like I've never been sure about her going back to the candy vote, never been sure about any of her decisions outside of the max move. I think it was always a bad idea to tell AJ about the plan because Miles is his guy, and the last time she told AJ about a plan, he made a whole counter voting block to try and get Paulie out over Jesse. It didn't work, and she probably doesn't even know that happened, but even without that context, I don't know if I agree with telling someone that you're gonna vote out their best friend. Then I think it was even more of a mistake to frame it in a way where the Miles plan was already said and done without even talking to AJ. Like, she basically said the numbers were already there instead of acting like it was a plan that she came up with, and like after getting the okay from AJ, she can rally up the numbers. I'm not the biggest fan of this play, and I'll talk about it more later. Oh yeah, before I get to the immunity challenge, the only talk that wasn't about Miles was Kaylen using this opportunity to form a bond with Kristen. He is getting more screen time this week, talking about his strategy, but I don't have much to say about this like Kaylen and Kristen stuff right now. It's good gameplay, but I need to see more to have thoughts. So next, they get to this immunity challenge where, shocker, Bounty wins because they were hanging on to a pole and Bounty got the advantage of starting up top while Baron had to start in the middle. Paulie gave it his all, but at the end of the day, he was up against Kate and Zara. They're really good at these types of challenges, and they had a breakfast and an advantage, so like that was never happening. So because of this result, this twist was pointless. This twist was unfair to Kate and the Baron tribe. First off, Kate had to win immunity again. Glad that happened because she would have been screwed over here had she lost. But also, there was no way Bounty was losing because although it didn't pan out, the person that just won the immunity, Kate, she got to handpick someone for her team, so she can just pick Morgan, the Olympian, which although it didn't really pan out, like it was still a factor. Like it could have increased their chances of winning. But not only that, they also get breakfast and an advantage in the challenge. If you lose, like you might as well just wear a paper bag over your head. Charlotte Bobcat settings, man. Like there's no good reason for Bounty to lose. I like that because Kate gets to keep her immunity that she should have had anyways, but because she won again and the Baron tribe had absolutely no chance, this whole twist just felt like filler. Like this was so predictable. They need at least 2 non-eliminations every season, and like Zen got medevac, so they needed a third. So I guess they just had to like slap this together, but it was a waste of time, I've got to say. Also, on the topic of challenge fairness, I didn't see this as a huge talking point. Like I'm not involved enough in these conversations, but on the Survivor AU Instagram page, I have seen complaints dating back to the previous immunity challenge. They're just standing there. Such riveting TV. If it's an endurance challenge involving balance or being lighter, then a woman is going to win. And in this challenge specifically, it seems like the footholds were unfair because, hey, Paulie just has bigger feet than Kate and Zara, and the footholds seem to be the same size for everyone. So Paulie already had all of the Baron disadvantages, and he had that working against him as well. Now, here's what I have to say. I actually see their point. If it's like a balance on something type of challenge, then that's for a woman to win for sure. But also I think back to the pre-merge and look at all of those like obstacle course and brawl type challenges that someone like Kate just couldn't compete in because it's like a foregone conclusion on what would happen. I'm going to rewatch every episode this season soon for the rating every episode video, but off the top of my head, I think Kate only competed in one brawl, which was like the PD injury episode when she and Logan were trying to put this ring through a pole. These post-merge challenges have always been slanted more towards women or lighter body types, which makes it laughable when people talk about like getting rid of guys at the merge because they're going to be like big challenge beasts. Probably not. But also, the pre-merge challenges have always been slanted more towards physical players, men. So my thing is, there should be some balance. Don't front load the season with physical stuff and backload it with endurance. Just have a mix, and that can totally change the strategy of the game. It's just an idea. But getting to the footholds, that's something where I think they could make it more fair, like individually measure everyone's feet and craft footholds that will suit them. But that just seems like a lot of extra work, extra effort. So I don't know, but it is like a solid idea worth considering, I would say. So yeah, back at camp, the strategizing revolved around Miles' idol and like trying to figure out a good split target. The reason why I say that Kate misplayed was because AJ told this stuff to Miles, letting him know to play his idol, which happened. I've talked about Kate's smart, subtle moves before people jumped on that wave when she started getting a bigger edit. Way better player than the edit gives her credit for. Potentially a top 4 player on this season, mainly because of her social game. Amazing player. But here, I think that she's the sole reason why Miles didn't leave, someone that she wanted out, and this is something that could potentially be used against her in a final tribal council scenario. And it kind of goes back to what I said last week about, yeah, Kate is probably going to be a big character, like important to how the season plays out, but she's going to be important to AJ's story, which is somewhat coming true. Sometime in this week, in one of these episodes, AJ said that the Brawn girls are good shields and they trust him. And right here, he's using them, using that relationship that he built with Kate to get information from all sides and let him save his #1 ally, Miles. Yeah, the AJ and Miles friendship is weird this week, with AJ wanting to distance himself from Miles and leave him out of votes, which is going to be coming up. But at the end of the day, he still saw Miles as a valuable enough part of his game to save him when he could have said nothing and Miles would have left. Now, was Miles really leaving? Did he really need AJ to tell him to play his idol in such a small group of 5? I don't know. Like, I'd like to think that Miles would play it, but like that's not how it was presented on the show. But yeah, all of that to say, massive credit to AJ. It will somewhat be discussed in the following episode, but in this AJ, Kate, and Morgan relationship, I think it's working out better for AJ than it is for Kate and Morgan, and it just gives him so much power in this game. Anyways, when Miles found out about the plan, he talked about having an idol and not necessarily like strong arming, but he definitely tried to dictate a vote on Kristen, and he tried to get Logan, Paulie, and AJ on board for this. Kristen is not necessarily a big threat, like a strategic powerhouse that everyone's going to lose to at the end, but every vote doesn't have to be about that. I agree with Miles wanting Kristen out because whether she's a GOAT or not, she's playing a mighty good game of Survivor, being so well insulated and someone that no one wants to get rid of. I don't think anyone has implied that Kristen is a GOAT, but she can easily take up a final 2 spot, and even right now, she can take up your place in an alliance. Like, she makes you expendable, whereas if they got rid of Kristen, everyone's gonna have to like make new friends. I probably don't love the way that Miles went about it, but I love the idea to get Kristen out. That's a very smart play. Logan seemed down, Paulie seemed down, but AJ wasn't, because for this whole week he's been somewhat against Miles. AJ thought that he could work with Kristen and that if she goes, then they're on the bottom, which I just didn't see his argument. Like, to me, Miles made a better argument for why Kristen should leave. But at this point, it doesn't matter because AJ isn't playing Miles's game. But also, AJ not feeling this plan didn't really matter because based on how the votes played out, all Miles needed was 3, himself, Logan, and Paulie, and they were in. This, however, got ruined when Paulie was told that he was the split and he just started spiraling. Like, he had a meltdown like it's Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It's so funny how he was just going around to everyone telling them not to vote for him, which they made him seem unhinged for this. Maybe, but it's actually reasonable with Miles having an idol and all. I think the misplay here was, okay, he's telling everyone not to vote for him, but give them another name to vote for. Like, that's what I would say. And all of this paranoia about the split ruined Miles's Kristen plan as Logan and Paulie ditched it and just went into self-preservation mode. It's so funny how for most of this game, Paulie has been called a snake oil salesman when he's just been a normal guy, at least like in the edit. And he's really been on the bottom for most of his run. Like, he's not really in power to be this snake oil salesman. Then the one time that he actually acts like a snake oil salesman or whatever by not telling Kristen that the vote was on her when she pressed him, that's the round when his game comes to an end. Ironic. That conversation didn't end his game, but it was funny. But yeah, tribal council happens, Miles plays his idol. Come on. You guys didn't think you could take down the jungle rat that easily, did ya? He negates all 5 bounty votes, and Logan, Kaylin, and Kristen's poly votes were enough to send him home, with Miles not getting his way. Now, I have to talk about Paulie. I thought that he was going to be a good player. He was a big player, he got a big edit, but I don't really think he was a good or amazing player. Like, I don't think he played a good game, which is unfortunate because I felt like he was set up so nicely on early Brawn. What I think is that he could possibly be a good player, like very social, good personality, but this specific game this season played out badly for him, like a worst case scenario. I believe he was the most rational person in the Noonan and Ursula drama. Like, if they stuck together, then they possibly could have run Brawn 2.0. He could have gone into the merge with a buddy, which has sort of been the meta in this merge phase. Maybe you get targeted like PD and Kristen, or maybe like Kate and Morgan, they see you as a block and they want to work with you. Paulie just didn't have that option going into the merge, which made it almost impossible for him to gain traction. Even when he got a buddy in Miles, Miles already had a buddy, and he said that Paulie was expendable. He only picked him up because he was on the bottom, and in theory, he could be his number. And then the snake oil salesman stuff just derailed Paulie's whole game, which wasn't necessarily true, at least like from the edit, but massive credit to AJ for outplaying Paulie with that and getting everyone to believe that. He's playing a great game of Survivor. But yeah, I would say that Paulie had an entertaining run on this season, and yeah, I liked him as a character. Fun TV for sure. Now for episode 18. The start is just typical Karen being mad at AJ and Miles because she thought that AJ told Miles to play the idol, and this is yet another one of her plans foiled by AJ. But instead of targeting AJ, she's back on this Kate and Morgan plan, and AJ and Kaylin are back on this Karen plan. So they're exactly where they began at the beginning of this week in terms of targets. At this point, I just want to see Karen vote AJ or Miles out instead of trying to weaken AJ by getting out Kate or Morgan. But my guess is she doesn't have the numbers for AJ because he's so well insulated with guys like Miles and Kaylin. And if people still believe in the graduates, Zara won't turn on AJ, Kate and Morgan won't vote for AJ. So there's just not enough numbers to get AJ out, which is why she has to go for Kate and Morgan. That would make sense. Also, before the reward, it was another Kaylin and Kristen segment talking about how they could be partners, and Kaylin talked about his strategy and like how he has 3 buddies in Miles, AJ, and Kristen. I already said I don't know how to feel about Kaylin's strategy other than to say that it's good, and I only highlighted it because this episode is a big breakout episode for Kaylin. He had always been chiming in when necessary, like he's relevant to the story, but in this episode, he finally jumped over Kate and Zara in the confessionals, and the fact that he's getting this content right now, like peaking right now, that makes me think that he's an end gamer and like they have to show his strategy, show his story more. Just my take on it. I like the reward challenge. It's this one where they had to like hold on to a rope to balance a track and like stack these blocks and knock them over like dominoes, but it was in pairs, which I liked. What I didn't like was that this challenge was held with an odd number of players, which meant that Logan had to sit on the bench and didn't have a chance to compete for reward, which is unfortunate. She's one of my favorites. But she made the most of this opportunity by helping AJ, directing AJ when he dropped one of his blocks. Not saying that's what got Logan picked to go on this reward by Kristen and AJ, but it definitely didn't hurt. And yeah, like she's playing the game. I respect it. AJ and Kristen also took Kaylin because he was also on the Baron tribe and hasn't really been to much rewards like that. So I like these picks. I thought they were going to like have to pick a pair, but it worked out better this way. At this reward, the new Barry's alliance got formed between AJ, Kaylin, Kristen, and Logan, with Kate and Morgan as these votes that they plan to bring in, and they aim to get Karen out. One of the reasons why Logan wanted Karen out was because of the idol shenanigans, and that was what I was concerned about when I was talking about that move. Karen is so indecisive. It's like she wants Logan to be safe, but also she doesn't want to openly flip on the graduates. She wants to have all of these options available to her when I think like she should have just committed to one, because now both sides don't really want to move forward with her. It's like she'll save Logan, but it has to be her way. She didn't want to tell Logan way before the vote and give her a chance to strategize against the plan, which is why Logan would feel burned by Karen and not see her as a true ally. A true ally would give her a chance to flip the plan. So I don't necessarily know if Logan going for Karen is in her best interest, especially since AJ explained better how if they get rid of Karen, everyone will come to him and Kaylin. But I understand for sure why Logan would want Karen out, and the plan before this immunity challenge was a 3-3-3 plan. They're leaving Miles out, so Miles, Zara, and Karen vote for Kate. Then the 6 of the Berries and Kate and Morgan split on Karen and Zara, then vote Karen out on the revote. Makes sense, solid plan for AJ, that is, and Kaylin. Like, I don't know if it's good for anyone else, but yeah. After this, there's this immunity challenge, 3-part 3-stage elimination challenge, where surprisingly there was no reset, like no wait time after they got done with the stages. If you got past the first stage, then you don't have to wait for the others to catch up. Like, you can just start the second stage. No easy chance to catch up, so if you had a bad start, then you're basically done. Mixed feelings, because it is different from what I'm used to, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. I'm open to it, especially since you can just skate by on this challenge by being bad, but like just good enough to qualify in the first 2 stages, then turn into God mode on the puzzle. It's different for sure, and like I don't really have strong feelings about it. Something else that was different or out there was Kaylin using JLP for strategy. I'll just say it. Kaylin won. He beast moded through this challenge, but when he got to the puzzle section, he asked JLP to like not let them know where he was in the puzzle because he didn't want them to know that he was good at puzzles, which is interesting. It goes back to his strategy that he talked about in episode 2, and like I forgot exactly what he said, but there was this like coconut bar, and like he wanted people to like underestimate him or something along those lines. Even in this week's episode, he told AJ that he wants people to think that like he's not all the way there because that works for their strategy, something along those lines. I like it. Like he said his game plan at the beginning and he's staying consistent. But it is questionable, like should he really be able to use JLP in his strategy? Also, why should Kaylin get updates about how well everyone else is performing but not vice versa? I like Kaylin, but it is questionable. Probably didn't matter anyways. He was light years ahead of everyone. That is, until he was missing a piece, but Kate suggested that it was in the bag, which it was. So look at clutch Kate, man, so inspirational, always coming up clutch, even in challenges that she can't even win. That's the second assist this episode because Logan directed AJ to where the block was and Kate suggested looking in the bag. So look at all these assists, looking like Magic Johnson out there. Also, hey, going back to the immunity complaints, they said that all of these post-merge immunity challenges are just like standing there and they're more suited towards women. Well, hey, this is one that Kate and Zara performed badly on. Like, this is your window of opportunity to take one of them out. But were they the main vote for tonight? No. So yeah, that's on the players. Never know if you're going to get a challenge like this again. Not saying I wanted them out, definitely not. But if they were to be voted out, this would be the round, because the next round and the next round and the next round, like you're probably just going to be standing there like balancing on something or whatever. It's just that no one wanted them out bad enough, because while they were both supposed to receive 3 votes, Karen was the main target here. The 3-3-3 plan was on until out of nowhere, out of left field, Kristen said that she trusts Karen and can't work with Zara, so she's flipping her vote, meaning that Zara would leave, and a good opportunity presented itself when she became part of the Karen side of the split, 4-3-2. This was because Miles had a thing and like he didn't want to get in the way of AJ's thing, and like they were talking about things and such. But Miles's thing was that he told Logan instead of going for Kate, he would flip his vote to Zara, which means Zara gets voted out. 4-3-2. So they had to flip Kristen's vote to the Karen side to counteract this. It sounds so confusing, and it was, especially on the first watch, but like I understand it now. I like that AJ's looking out for his own game by not including Miles in on the vote, but the way that he went about it was so suspicious, like saying that he'll tell Miles the plan at tribal council. Like that should have been an instant like alarm bell. And it seems like at this point AJ has more options. Like he's willing to distance himself away from Miles while Miles still thinks that they're this like dynamic partnership and kind of getting left in the dust. Anyways, this was originally about Kristen, and this configuration enabled her to make a big move. She could flip her vote to Zara and save Karen. I like this for Kristen a lot. She's been social, she's been included in things, but this is finally her time to make her signature move that sets her up greatly for the end game. So it's ironic how at this tribal council, she told Karen that like she messed up the plan, when honestly, although true, I think Kristen messed up the plan here by telling Karen about the vote split before tribal. She took a page out of the Karen playbook by telling Karen about the plan, but this was like right before tribal council and she gave Karen no chance to plan around it. She'll save Karen, but it has to be her way, and Karen will lose an ally in the process, literally straight out of Karen's playbook. So while Karen going to this tribal council and like playing Russian roulette or whatever, and like trying to gather up these 5 votes of her, Kristen, Kaylin, Zara, and Logan to take out one of Miles, AJ, Kate, or Morgan, that literally got her voted out because that changed the plan. But I don't necessarily blame Karen a lot because she was being given a plan. A plan was being dictated to her rather than this being her own plan that aligns with her interests, where preferably she would keep herself and Zara in the game. Would have had a chance to make a counter to this if Kristen told her before, which Kristen admitted to tipping Karen off, which is just bad gameplay from Kristen. And just like that, the Berries alliance is probably over, if it even was like a real deal alliance. But yeah, Karen gets voted out here, and I have to say, although she got a really big edit and was like this decoy winner Valeria type of edit, even though I didn't see Valeria as having a winner edit or a decoy winner edit, but that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, despite Karen getting a massive edit, I don't think that she was that amazing as a player. Now, she probably makes the top 10 players of this season because like, well, she made it past the final 10, so that has to count for something. And even if I were to mix it up, like having a lower placement like Laura above Karen, which I probably wouldn't, but like just as an example, even if that were the case, this season's cast is so bad gameplay wise that I can't imagine Karen falling outside of the top 10. So she's good there, but I don't think that she was an amazing player. At the beginning, she was safe with the Coven, and the graduates won the day at the Mad Max Tribal Council where Allie went home. But then after the AJ idol play, everything that she had to say was about AJ and Miles. AJ and Miles. She doesn't like AJ and Miles because they're ruining her plans, which is so valid. But she barely did anything to get them out, really didn't have the numbers. So despite getting a big edit, I kind of feel like she's a bit of a confessional gangster somewhat. Gonna talk a big game in the confessionals, like they're gonna give her a lot of confessionals, and having that constant presence would be a trick to think that she's an amazing player, but no, I just don't see it that way. She couldn't get out AJ and Miles. She couldn't secure the Kate and Morgan voting block. She couldn't even secure the voting block that she was working on her own with herself, Zara, and Logan, just because of the way that she saved Logan. She thought that Kaylin was on her side when he wasn't. She tried to bring together this 5 at Tribal Council, which is Kristen's fault why it had to happen that late, but since it happened that late and they didn't get a whole day to talk about it, that 5 was never voting with her, which just shows that she was left out somewhat. She didn't have the strongest connections. Then there were the questionable decisions, like organizing this like 4 Polly 3 AJ split plan to put the fear of God into AJ, someone that she wanted to work with, when that should really just drive AJ away, get him to look for new allies. And I already talked about the Logan idol situation where I wanted to see Karen commit, like either tell Logan way before, which will be more appreciated, or like don't tell her at all. Her game was an interesting game. Like, don't know if it was necessarily amazing, but she was fun TV, so I'll give her that. As for the person that gets credit for this Karen move, it's tough. Guys like Kaylin and AJ said Karen's name at the beginning of this week, and Logan said Karen's name at the reward and tried to claim credit, trying to talk to the jury. Also, Kristen was in an interesting spot where she gave Karen the information that led to the live tribal council, which got her eliminated, which means that both Kristen and Karen played a part in Karen's downfall. I think this is one of those unique votes in Survivor that's like not black and white and one person can't take like the sole credit. There were a lot of factors in this Karen move, so it's a tough one. I'm not really going to make that call here, but in terms of the people that benefit the most, I definitely think it's Kaylin and AJ. Speaking of AJ, for my standout player, it has to be AJ, and just AJ this time, unlike last time when Miles was up here. Miles' game took a hit this week. Out of nowhere, he's just a target and had to play his idol. Then he has AJ trying to leave him out of the votes and like never got his way this week because Karen left and Kristen stayed in the game. He also lost Polly, which he said that Polly was expendable, but he burned his advantage and idol to save Polly just for him to leave a week later. Meanwhile, AJ on the other hand, he's working with Kaylin. Miles still thinks that they're tight. Zara still tells him the plan. He has or had the berries. Kristen flipped, but Logan was in there. He has Kate and Morgan on lock in a position where at this tribal, there were talks about shields and such. Karen saying that Kate and Morgan are AJ shields, which Kate basically said AJ might be the shield. That's kind of what I got from what she was saying. But the thing is, on the edited TV show, they haven't really expressed that. They haven't really said that they're using AJ as a shield. They said that they're going with AJ because they like him. Meanwhile, AJ said that he's using Kate and Morgan as shields and isn't going to Final Five with them intact, if I heard that correctly, saying that he'd be dumb to go to the Final Five with them or something along those lines. The AJ, Kate, Morgan friendship works better for AJ because he has numbers, while all Kate and Morgan have is AJ because they ditched the coven and like Girls Gone Wild thing for him. And I like this strategy because if they're still targeting buddies, Kate and Morgan are next or have to be taken out sometime down the line. Like one of them has to go before AJ. So AJ is connected to just about everyone and got what he wanted at both tribal councils. Miles stays safe. He was able to warn Miles to play his idol because of the information that Kate gave him, and Karen left, someone that he saw as a strategic person that could rally an opposing side. Now everyone left, just like these floating numbers that are connected to him in one way or another. AJ's dominating the game, and it's crazy to see how far he's come. At the beginning, he was somewhat on the bottom of brains, or like not in the best position, because he told Allie about trying to get Logan out, and that was a big mistake. Now he's controlling the game and everyone wants to work with him, so that deserves some applause. I also wanted to just mention Kaylin. Bigger edit this week, he got his way as well with Karen going out, and he's getting closer to Kristen, and he shed more light on his strategy about like playing in the background and such. So those are my standouts. I also wanted to talk about the edit and a point that I've been seeing since a certain person won Australian Survivor. I look at conversations, I look at videos, and I can't trace it back to one person, but I have heard cases for why AJ won't win, which I could get behind. He has a decent amount of negativity to his edit, and he probably has too big of an edit to where he'd be an obvious winner. Like he's probably getting a George style edit right now. But I wouldn't say that means that one of the under-edited lower confessional players like Kate, Morgan, and Kristen are going to win, and they're going to be just like Liz, which is a comparison that I've seen going around some. I ruled them out all the way back in week 2 when Pauly and Noonan were the only ones getting real content on original Bronze. I didn't want to make a whole video on this, so I'll just address it here. Just because Liz won with a low confessional count, that doesn't automatically open the doors for other players with low confessional counts to win as well. First off, out of this OG Brawn group, I believe that at this point in the season, Liz had a few more confessionals than the highest confessional getter out of them at this point, Kate, so there's that. But despite the low confessional count, I knew Liz's story, and I always knew where she stood in the game, and she got to chime in at important moments, and even when she didn't get confessionals, she still had screen time and was in those important conversations. But yeah, back to the story aspect, I knew all of Liz's story. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Kate and Morgan literally have plot holes in their journey that they didn't get to explain all that much or at all. There's actually a new plot line that emerged from Pauly's Jury Villa segment where Laura told him that Kate and Morgan didn't like him or whatever because on day 3, something like that, he and Noonan suggested Kate and Morgan should be next, and like they held on to that. that would have been nice to know. Like, I feel like that would have been important when explaining the dynamics of the season, explaining Kate and Morgan's story. Could have given more context as to why Kate called Polly's game tragic. But hey, that along with some of Kate and Morgan's other moves that I talked about, they're not in the edited version of the season, or they're not highlighted that much because they're probably not winning. Also, back to the Liz stuff, she had a low confessional count, but she was always going to get a low confessional count because it was a half new player, half returnee season where players like Simon, George, and Nina were coming back for some redemption. So they're going to take up a lot of screen time, along with a winner in Haley. Shawnee's going to command a lot of screen time, and Jordy was a huge character on the season prior to Heroes versus Villains. These guys all needed their screen time, whereas in most seasons of Australian Survivor, the winner, they might not get the most confessionals, but they're at least somewhere around 100 and they're a top confessional getter. I'll put a few confessional charts on screen, but like, yeah, I've got to say, that's consistent. That's something that I'd bet on. Australian Survivor winners get coronation edits. Like, that is the status quo. Liz is a very rare exception, and she has a good reason to be an exception for the reasons that I just explained. It's because of this, that's why like there's only 3 real contenders for me, which are the top 3 confessional getters at this point: AJ, Miles, and Logan, and maybe potentially Kalen, because while he doesn't have the most confessionals, kind of like Liz, at least I knew of his story since episode 2, whereas with Kristen, Kate, Morgan, and Zara, they have low confessional counts and they don't have a clear season-long storyline, so I have to write them off. That's not saying that they're bad players, they're amazing players, like they made it to the final 8, but based on the edit, based on the status quo, I don't see how they win unless their edit just picks up drastically within these final 6 episodes, which can happen, but they just wouldn't have a season-long storyline. I like all of them. Like, I want Kate or Morgan to win. If one of them won, they'd probably be my favorite winner ever, but I don't want them to win with this edit because it's not good. If this is a winner edit, then it's an edit that doesn't really show their story. I've learned more about their story from exit interviews and Jury Villa than what's actually been shown on TV. So that's all it's about. I just don't think they're gonna win. I just think the Liz comparison for under edited players is a bad comparison for all of the reasons listed earlier. But hey, anything can happen. I wrote like half of these players off, but with new information, I can change my opinion. So I'm just going to let the season play out. But yeah, that is all I have to say about an eventful week of Australian Survivor, Brains versus Brawn II. Stay strong, stay brutal, because above all else, it's anything to win.
I won't let you down, Bruce. I'll keep fighting. Always.